Wherever you are on your road to retirement, we're here to help you stay on course. Welcome to Mason Street Retirement Insights, the show dedicated to helping you plan your financial future.
What is your biggest concern? People are very focused on the amount of money that they have saved, but it's really about the income that we generate. Income is what's going to drive lifestyle. And so the income strategies that we utilize are what's key.
And now, here's your host, Sean Mason.
And I am Casey Hudson. I'm alongside Sean every week here on the show, asking for his ideas on what you can be working on as you are getting closer to that retirement goal line. You've worked hard, you've saved hard. Now, Sean is here to help you turn those savings into a reliable monthly paycheck in retirement. Sean, my friend, great to see you. How we doing? What's going on? Tell me something good.
We're doing really good, Casey. I'm happy to be here. You know, I love hanging out with the community. It's good to get with you again. I don't know what's really good. You know, I mean, just hanging out, getting some pool time. No big plans this weekend, just doing some relaxing.
Well, it's Saturday, so that's something good right there.
Yeah, what's wrong with that, right?
Yeah, we'll go with that. Well, we've got a great show ahead today, Sean, because we're going to talk about some retirement strategies that may not work as well as they once did, what we can learn from that. Plus, we're going to talk FOMO, that fear of missing out, FOMO as the kids call it, and we're going to talk about how to avoid letting it drive your investment decisions. So some fun conversation and lessons lie ahead for us. So we want you to settle in, get comfy, and go ahead, write our phone number down. Keep this handy for the show. Save it in your phone. Whatever you got to do, it's important that you have it. 559-847-0039. That's how you can reach us today, and we highly suggest that you do because Sean has a few select spots set aside on his calendar exclusively for our radio listeners for your very own introductory retirement planning assessment. And Sean, you know that for somebody who maybe has never met with a financial advisor before, the idea of sitting down with one for a retirement planning assessment, that might sound really intimidating or really scary, or maybe they're afraid they're going to be judged in something like this. But I want you to talk to us about what sets Mason Street Wealth Management apart and why this opportunity is something to be really excited about and not scared of.
Yeah, it can be kind of nervy, you know, thinking about the idea of going in and meeting with a financial consultant, professional, just talking about your own stuff. A lot of times people, you know, we have a hard time talking about our own situation. A lot of times we're not really sure about it. We don't really know what to talk about. We don't really know what to say. I think that holds people back a lot too. And I want to encourage people that don't put too much thought in it. It's just a discussion. A financial professional, somebody like myself, we're going to know how to help you walk through that conversation. So don't put a lot of stress on yourself thinking that direction. Also, you know, I think, Casey, often people feel like they're going to walk into this sales situation, like somebody's going to try and sell them something like, I'm just looking for the new car. I didn't really want to buy it at this point in time. And I really get that. And that's just here at Mason Street. That's not the way it is. I always let people know, look, I'm not here to convince anybody of anything. I believe that if you get the information that you need, you're going to know what to do. But sometimes it's hard to get that information, sift through all of the noise that's out there and figure out what's relevant to you. And just coming in and having that discussion is going to really put you at ease. It's a really good experience. I really encourage our listeners to make that phone call and to set up a time to come in.
We really want to emphasize, too, that this is a completely complimentary opportunity where you get to meet directly with Sean. You can ask him your big retirement questions, and you can really get that 30,000-foot view of where you stand and what adjustments might make sense for you. So 559-847-0039 is what you need to dial. We've got Mason Street teammates standing by right now at the office. They've got Sean's calendar pulled up, and they are ready to get you all set up for your very own retirement planning assessment. So if you've got $500,000 or more saved for retirement, one more time, the number you need to be dialing is 559-847-0039. Or you can get connected with us online as well. Our website is masonstreetretirementinsights.com. click the contact button up top, share some info with us, and then one of our teammates will be more than happy to reach out directly to you to get you started. All right, Sean, I want to start today with something that has shown some serious staying power. There aren't many things that last more than 20 years these days, but apparently the TV show Grey's Anatomy is determined to prove that it can and it will. Not sure if you've ever watched this show, Sean. I used to be an avid watcher back in the day, but I think they lost me around season 8. They had a whole plane crash situation and I was out. But we've now actually made it through 22 seasons of Grey's Anatomy, and ABC, they intend to keep the party going. They've already renewed the show for season 23. They've got a spinoff in the works, and I was reading about this and thinking about the longevity of this show, Sean, from a retirement perspective. And it really shows us that sometimes doing the same thing over and over keeps working. And then on the other hand, sometimes it does not. So I'm wondering if you can talk to us about some things that you see retirees doing with their money that just are not as effective as they used to be. Can you speak to this, Sean?
Grey's Anatomy is still going.
It sure is.
It's
been going since I was in high school, I think.
Oh my gosh. I haven't heard of Grey's Anatomy in so long, but that tells you my television watching experiences. Casey, this is a great concept to be talking about. I really like it. It's so easy for people to get kind of just comfortable and start feeling complacent in where they're at because they feel like things that have worked in the past will still continue to work more. They feel like they've got it. Mm-hmm. And that sometimes just isn't the case. And that happens from different perspectives. There's changes that happen. Sometimes they're the economic environment. If you think about the last decade or even maybe 2 decades, it used to be that we heard a 60-40 portfolio was the way to go, 60% stock and 40% bonds, and that has completely changed. If you're in a 60-40 type of a blend, or you're being recommended to be in that type of a blend, I think that it's probably not in your best interest these times because the environment has changed with bonds. Our risk changes. Moving from working years to retirement years, that risk changes. Going from accumulation to distribution, that strategy is completely different. So what you're used to in working years is not going to be the same, and it's not going to work the same when you retire. Often, we just have the way we feel or personal changes, thoughts about the way we see things could change. Good example there would be long-term care. So often when people first come in to meet with me, they think that their long-term care or their long-term health care strategy is going to be to rely on their kids. And as time goes on, maybe we have discussions about what that does, what caretaking does to somebody. Maybe they have started getting some experience in helping their own parents, and they start to recognize what that does, and they start to change how they think that they want to handle long-term care in the future and maybe not burden the kids so much. And so a lot of things are going to change. A lot of things have changed over the years, and a lot of things will continue to change in the future. I really try and impress on people to kind of get real intentional about a few concepts. I think it really helps. And one of those concepts is to try and really decide who you are and what you want out of retirement. Do you want to make it as great as it can possibly be? Or do you kind of just want to get by, feeling like that you think that it's all going to work out? Either way is fine. I mean, I'm not suggesting that one is right and one is wrong. I'm just suggesting to be intentional to make that decision. Your quality of life, you deserve that. You deserve to make that decision. Your family deserves for you to make that decision, and your quality of life is on the line. I'm really always trying to impress upon people to talk that out. Talk to your spouse. Ask how they feel about it. That's one of the least discussed concepts that there is when people come in here. And I will suggest too that Not making that decision is making a decision to just get by. Procrastination is making that decision to kind of live that hope game and just feeling like it's all going to work out, but not really being sure.
Yeah.
But once you've talked that out, once you've kind of gone through that process of figuring out what you really want, I think it's time to commit to awareness. Commit to becoming aware. There's a lot of different elements that are going to come along with supporting that decision that you made to make it as great as you possibly can. And you want to know what that is. So many people, when they come into my office and they say, Sean, I don't know what I don't know. And I can't be having that in retirement. And so we've got to understand those different elements and things that we've got to be identifying. Some are going to be more important and some are going to be less important. But it's just so important to get that awareness. And a lot of people, they need to talk that out. They need to talk that out with somebody who knows what they're doing. And that all starts with a phone call. I encourage people, have a discussion with somebody. Come in and have a discussion with me, and we'll walk through what those different elements are and what those kind of things are that you need to be identifying. Recognizing that what we did through our working years is completely going to change when we go into our retirement years. The strategies, the priorities, it all changes significantly. I like to use the analogy, especially, when I'm teaching educational workshops at the colleges. I talk about, what is the goal of mountain climbing? And we know that the goal is to reach the top. But what's interesting about that is that 82% of all injuries and deaths happen on the way down. And so ask yourself, why is that? We put all of this time, we put all of this energy into strategizing, getting to the top and reaching to the goal. And we don't put any time and effort into figuring out how are we going to get down.
Yeah.
And if you think, and think about, Casey, think about the last, real steep hike you did. There's nothing the same about going up compared to coming down. It's all 100% different, right?
Right. It's a great point.
Yeah, the financial world is exactly the same. We put all of our energy to get to the top. In our financial world, most of us think about the top or the goal is retiring. I'll suggest that for most people, really, when you dig down, it's getting to that point to where you can decide if you need the paycheck or not. Whether you retire or not is not probably what's most important. It's getting to that point to where you get to if you decide you want to. And so understanding that getting to the top of that mountain, getting to the top of our financial mountain is going to be completely different than getting down. And we've got to put a lot of thought and strategy into getting there. Casey, you made a great point, and your question is, what's worked before versus what works now? People need help with discussing that, and again, I can't encourage you more. Talk that out with somebody that knows what they're doing. Give us a call and take advantage of the opportunity of coming in and having a discussion. There has been a lot of elements, a lot of things that's changed over the last decade or two, and they're going to continue to change. We talked about the current economic environment. We talked about how the use of bonds maybe are not in your best interest at this point, and there's alternatives. Understanding how an annuity can be an extraordinary bond replacement, serve the same purpose, and maybe get more value than being in a bond. Legislative risk. A lot of people don't think about the legislative risk, legislative policy, how that can change through the years and then change your strategy. We just had a major legislative change with the big beautiful bill. Right? It's a tax bill. And, I'm not getting political. Sometimes people want to get political when they talk about that bill. But look, I got to look at the facts. And for us, it's been a net difference maker in the amount of taxes that the families pay that we work for. And it's created a lot of opportunity to enhance Roth conversion strategies. So we're actually implementing more conversion strategies with more families maybe that before it wasn't going to be as beneficial, and now those benefits are just enhanced because of that change. A lot of times, our mindset is going to change. Often people will come into my office and they're all about the decision of, do I pay off the mortgage or do I keep it mortgaged? Bill and Jennifer just came in a few days ago, and it was a great conversation. Bill was really all about, keeping the mortgage, having that home mortgaged at 75%. He recognized the financial value, the math. He recognized the math. And Jennifer was, look, I just feel so much better about paying off the house. So the mindset can change through the years as well. But I'll tell you, Casey, what does not change, what never changes and what always stays the same is the value of the strong foundation of planning. Having a strong foundation in planning, understanding what your goal is. Look, how you reach the goal could change. Yes, with the environment, with legislative policy, with your mindset. But the goals don't change. What we're trying to accomplish, that lifestyle, what we're really trying to reach, typically isn't going to change.
Let me ask you this, Sean, because you just gave us, a little bit of an example with that couple that you've worked with. But is there a situation recently where you've helped somebody, or maybe you've helped a couple, really modernize their retirement plan and it really made a meaningful difference for them heading into retirement?
Yeah, actually, there's several. Let's see, Harry and Jane. They are just a really neat couple. They come to mind. They accidentally came across the radio show months ago.
Okay.
And they just started listening to it. There was some, there was some similar concepts being discussed in that show that we're discussing right now.
Okay.
And so that caught their attention. They listened for a few more weeks. They heard a lot of ideas and concepts that made a lot of sense. And so they came in, but, they thought they had it all figured out. Jane, she was used to paying the bills. Harry handled the investments. They had watched and helped their parents going through retirement. Of course, their parents had a pension, and they knew that was a different situation for them. But they kind of agreed that having a plan done would be beneficial. And so then going through that process, going through our comprehensive planning process, they gained a lot of insight in different things that they didn't realize. Some things that they were able to really improve, some of those strategies, some of those things that they had felt like they had already got it figured out. They had it figured out, but there was some improvements made there. There were many ideas or many things that they hadn't thought of. Mm-hmm. And when we started to test, what could happen in the future? What are some hurdles? What are some potholes that could happen in the future that might derail the whole plan, might derail their retirement lifestyle? We identified some of those things and we implemented some strategies to mitigate those consequences. We've been working together now, over 6 months. We're now working with their kids, which I take that as a great honor, but also we're working with several of their friends and coworkers. And that conversation all started with a phone call. They heard us on the radio and they picked up the phone. A lot of times, Casey, people are trying to decide, and I get this a lot when people come into the workshops that I teach. Mm-hmm. Often they're really trying to determine whether they should be doing this on their own or if they should be kind of bringing in professional consultation. I am all about people doing it on their own, if they have the characteristics to do it. And there's a lot to that. And you got to walk through that and decide on your own if that's the case. That's a family decision. I always want to make sure that we recognize that, it's going to affect our lifestyle. It's going to affect our quality of life, but it's also going to affect our family's quality of life, our spouse, our kids. And so, a lot of times people just need to be able to talk that out. Sometimes that's with just family members. Oftentimes, it's not a bad idea to just get with a financial consultant to walk through that discussion as well.
So if someone's listening to this conversation, Sean, and they're thinking, maybe my retirement plan is built on some of these outdated rules and concepts, or maybe they've been trying to DIY their retirement plan themselves and they're kind of double thinking now, like, they're second guessing, can I really do this on my own? What should those people be doing? What action should they be taking this week to, get to a better place when it comes to their retirement planning?
That's a really good one. I'm always suggesting that people get real with themselves. It's all about discipline, having the discipline to get the information that you should have. Know what you need to know. Have the discipline to keep up because it's changing constantly. And then ultimately, Casey, it's about having the discipline to not react emotionally. That's the biggest problem in this thing. Reacting emotionally can devastate retirement plans. If you're not sure about what your situation is, if you're not sure, if it's not your area of expertise, I urge you to get counsel on your individual situation. Look, it could mean the difference between thousands of dollars in spending throughout your lifetime and then into legacy. I invite you to give our office a call. We'll find a good time for you to come in or meet by Zoom. It's just a great opportunity for you to talk through your situation. We might have some recommendations you can use on your own, and then we can determine if there's something we can do to help put you in a better position. So give us a call right now. Our team is standing by, 559-847-0039. And for our first 5 callers, we're going to provide you with your own individual comprehensive planning assessment, estate planning, tax strategies, investment allocations, all these elements that you need to be thinking about to make your retirement lifestyle the best it can be.
559-847-0039. Take the few minutes to get a second opinion. Secure your spot for your own introductory retirement planning assessment with Sean, and let's make sure that your strategy is keeping up with your goals. 559-847-0039 or online at masonstreetretirementinsights.com. Sean, I think the conversation that we just had makes an important point that a lot of those old retirement rules worked in a different era, but today's retirees are playing a completely different game. And when people realize that that old playbook may not work the way that it used to, I feel like that can lead to some emotional decisions. And one of the biggest ones right now is feeling like you're missing out when the market is going up. And if the market feels confusing to you right now, please know that you're not alone. And we've got investment manager Charles Bobrinskoy telling CNBC that one emotion seems to be driving a lot of investors right now. Let's take a listen.
Yeah, at any given time, there are times in which people are overly greedy or overly fearful. And I think right now it's absolutely the case that we're in overly greedy mode. There is FOMO all over this market. And the indicators that people talk about, whether it's your cab driver asking you about his latest AI wins, or it's one of your kids telling you you got to get with it and invest more in technology, all of these things tend to be signs of euphoria, and it's never good to be buying when everybody's buying.
Now, Sean, nobody wants to feel like they're sitting on the sidelines. So I'm wondering how you help people in retirement or close to retirement benefit from the market without letting that FOMO, that fear of missing out, drive their decisions. What's your approach?
Yeah, I agree. It's a big thing right now, and it's going both ways. I'm telling you, people are having that fear of missing out. They're making trades. They're allocating in ways that seems like they're chasing and hoping that it's going to work out. And then a lot of people, they're just worried. They're scared because the price of everything is so high, and they just feel like they know that there's going to be some type of a major correction, and that's just not the way to do it. I think it's essential that you have that strong foundational investment plan. You've got to understand what your goals are, and you've got to have the discipline to stick with that plan. And Casey, to your question, that's what we do. We help people understand what their goal is. A lot of times that's the missing piece. They got to understand what their goal is. They get caught up in thinking that growth is what they're looking for, or they just can't position themselves to lose any money, and that's not necessarily the goal. The goals are different. I think a lot of times it just starts with sitting down with somebody, going through a discussion of what you really want your lifestyle to be like. Investments support strategies and a plan. And when you have that foundational investment plan, now you can figure out what investments you should be using to support the strategies in that plan. Dollars get earmarked based on what you're trying to accomplish them and when you're going to use them. Some dollars might be used in the next 2 years for income. Some of those dollars you might need to earmark with strategy that's going to help you with healthcare funding in the future. A lot of times you want to make sure that you leave something, some type of a legacy for a cause or the kids. All of those strategies, all those goals are going to have different investment strategies. And that's not to say that if you are creating a investment plan and you're dedicated to earmarking those dollars for those specific goals, that is not to say that you can't have your own small account on the side that you're managing yourself. Dan and Carol were just in 2 days ago for a review, and they're a lot of fun. But Dan had mentioned how, he has his side account. He's got $50,000 in a little side account. Those dollars aren't going to affect their lifestyle. It's not going to affect their quality of life. But he was kind of bragging about how that account is up 18%. And Carol was quick to chime in and remind us all that account the same time this year was down over 20%. It's not to say that you can't have that on the side if you just love it, but the real money, the money that you're going to use for quality of life and lifestyle, it requires strategic goals. Taxes are going to be a factor in the investment design. You think of Roth conversions during conversion strategies. During the conversion strategy, there's going to be a investment strategy that goes along with it. Then for those Roth dollars, the long-term, the dollars in that Roth that are going to be used long-term are going to have one investment strategy that's going to be different from some of those Roth dollars that you might be blending in for income right now. Your taxable accounts versus your deferred tax accounts. Those strategies, those investment strategies are going to be different. It's always about the goal of what you're trying to accomplish. It's never about a single stock or a single investment opportunity that you're trying to chase the returns. Keep in mind that each piece of the puzzle is affecting other pieces of the puzzle. It deserves discussion. A lot of times people are going to put themselves in a better position if they just had that discussion with somebody who knows what they're doing. Tom and Maureen came in just a few weeks ago. They had heard us on the radio. They came in for a financial planning assessment. Maureen was worried about running out of money, and Tom just felt like he knew what he was doing. He felt like he could do it himself because he thought that there was a huge value in saving some fees. Mm-hmm. And as we went through that discussion and talked about the intricacies, they decided on working together with us to build a plan. Originally, it was just to build a plan. We work with people in two different capacities. Some people, we just be the architect and we build the blueprint for them. And others, we end up managing together. And for Tom and Maureen, after going through that process, Tom had decided earlier that he felt like he could do it himself, but actually going through that process, we actually ended up working together, and we're now managing the money, managing the portfolios, and implementing the strategies in that plan. And that all started with a phone call. They heard us on the radio, they picked up the phone, they gave us a call, and they scheduled a meeting, and that all changed the way that they think and feel and how they're actually going to live now their lives, their retirement. I just encourage our listeners, I encourage you, give us a call. Our team is standing by. Set up a convenient time to come into the office, have a discussion. We can have that discussion by Zoom, whatever is most convenient.
559-847-0039. That's the number to dial if you'd like a second opinion on your portfolio, your income strategy, or your overall retirement game plan. Sean's ready to help, and this is a great time to have that conversation. So if you have $500,000 or more saved for retirement, all you have to do to get started is pick up the phone. Give us a call right now, 559-847-0039. We've got Mason Street teammates standing by. They will help you find that next convenient time on the calendar to meet directly with Sean. 559-847-0039, or find us online at masonstreetretirementinsights.com. We'll give you a few minutes now to make that call while we take a quick break, but don't go anywhere. Lots more is still ahead here on Mason Street Retirement Insights. We'll be right back.
There are many lessons we learn as we're growing up. One was, don't touch the hot stove. Ow. Today, Uncle Sam is trying to keep that lesson alive with your 401k. Think about it. Don't touch your 401k before 59 and a half. You'll pay a penalty. Hot stove. Oof. Or don't touch your 401k. You'll have to pay taxes. You'll get burned. Ouch. You've been saving in this account your whole life. Why shouldn't you use it for retirement? So the financial industry can keep charging you fees, or the government can roll up your tax bill? Come on. Sean Mason at Mason Street Wealth Management believes in letting you enjoy your money. You worked for it, you saved it. Let's give you the confidence and permission to spend it. And there are plenty of options for you to explore. Go to masonstreetwealthmanagement.com to find out more. It's a no-obligation meeting to talk about planning and enjoying your retirement. Or call 559-847-0039. That's 559-847-0039. And let's give you some financial oven mitts for your 401k.
You have found Mason Street Retirement Insights. My name is Casey, and I am here with my buddy Sean Mason, president of Mason Street Wealth Management right here in Fresno, asking for his ideas on things that you can be working on as you get closer to your retirement. As you are listening today and you've got questions, want to remind you of our phone number. That's 559-847-0039. You can schedule some time to sit down with Sean for that introductory retirement planning assessment. 559-847-0039. Or we are also online. That website's masonstreetretirementinsights.com. Now, I want to jump right into Social Security uncertainty today, Sean, because everyone is wondering if 2026 will be the year that Congress finally deals with the future of Social Security. The clock is ticking. We are now less than 8 years away from the program's trust fund running out of money, possibly triggering huge across-the-board cuts in benefits. We've got Mike Murphy with the Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget on the Mandy Connell podcast talking about this, so let's take a listen.
But it's coming now. We need to get on it. So the issue here is Social Security. It's a vitally important federal program. There's 70 million people about on Social Security. There's going to be more by the time, 2033 rolls around. When we reach that point, by law, they are required, when it goes insolvent, to match what the scheduled benefits are with the revenues that are coming in. And when that happens, it would have to be a 23% across the board cut. That is estimated to be equating to about $17,000 for the average middle income couple. It would be truly devastating.
So, Sean, do we roll the dice and see what the government does? Or is there a way that you can help us plan ahead and prepare in case these cuts do come down? What are your thoughts?
Yeah. Casey, what happened to the security part of Social Security?
I hear you, buddy.
Yeah, and absolutely, for sure, we have to plan for it. They put it in writing that the possibility exists, so it probably wouldn't be wise to ignore the warning. But, it's like all the hurdles and roadblocks that can come our way in the future. And many of those will directly affect Social Security benefits, tax law changes, early death of a spouse, Medicare premiums, required minimum distributions, all of those things can reduce the Social Security paycheck. It's really how we plan for it and the strategies we use to mitigate those consequences of each risk. But it depends on an individual's family's risk tolerance in determining how exactly we do that. For most people, Social Security is considered one of those guaranteed income sources like a pension. Mm-hmm. So protection strategies, maybe should have some type of guarantees. And there's a lot of different ways that we can plan for that shortfall in the case that it comes. But if you really want to put some guarantees in there, annuities may be the best option. They're a great solution for income protection, including that potential decrease in Social Security benefits. And the timing couldn't be better. You know, annuity companies are offering great deals right now. The amount of income guaranteed by an annuity is really dependent on the interest rate environment at the time that you purchase the annuity. The higher that interest rate environment is, the higher the lifetime income guarantee will be. And, you know, Casey, it's important to note that you can invest in an annuity now to lock in that guaranteed higher payout, even if you don't need to turn on the income stream until sometime in the future. So, you know, I really suggest that if you are considering any type of strategy to fill in that shortfall, I encourage you to give us a call, because we can shop all of the top-rated companies to find that highest guaranteed income available.
Going back to Social Security for a moment, Sean, there's always a big discussion for retirees about when to claim Social Security, and there is, you know, strategy behind it. And a lot of times you work with your advisor to decide when is the best time, what's going to fit into your plan and your strategy. So does this potential benefit cut that could be coming our way in 2032, does that affect how you help your clients or recommend to your clients when they claim Social Security? Does that play into the conversation around the time that they're claiming?
It has to play into the conversation, because it's always going to be about, at least in part, how the family feels about the possibility of that shortfall coming. Look, a lot of people feel like, hey, I'm taking it as soon as possible because I have a lack of belief in the funding of Social Security. And then especially that shortfall comes in. You know, when we're talking about strategy and when to start Social Security, there's a couple different strategies or perspectives, goals that somebody might take. If you're looking to get the most number of spendable dollars out of Social Security Administration, if you believe that you're going to live past 82 years old, then you're probably going to end up starting that Social Security paycheck at age 70. That's where you're going to get the most number of dollars out of the administration. But you really think about it, is that really the goal? Because for most of us, the goal is to, out of all the resources that we've accumulated, pensions, Social Security, 401ks, IRAs, brokerage accounts, you take it all into consideration. Really what we're trying to do is to get the most number of dollars out of those resources. Mm-hmm. And we don't care if it comes from Social Security or an IRA or where. We just want to get the highest number of dollars out of it. Those two strategies are going to be completely different. So really got to get a hold on what you're trying to accomplish.
So if we've got listeners that are concerned about these Social Security changes, these potential cuts coming in the future, what is one proactive step you could tell them they could take right now to help protect themselves, protect their plan heading into retirement?
I think you should come in and have a discussion with us, because look, the strategy is going to be different for everybody. You have a concern. Now let's discuss it. Let's talk it out. And let's talk about the different options that might work in your particular situation. Give us a call, set up a time to come in and have a discussion with us. We'll just walk through your individual situation and see what those options might be. 559-847-0039. Our team is standing by right now. We're going to provide our first 5 callers with your very own retirement planning assessment. And we're going to do this with no charge. It's that important. So give us a call. Team is standing by right now.
That number again, 559-847-0039. Look, you can't control Congress, but what you can control is whether you're prepared for whatever curveballs come your way in retirement. So if you've got $500,000 or more saved for retirement, that preparation all starts when you pick up the phone today and schedule your planning assessment with Sean. 559-847-0039, or you can head online to MasonStreetRetirementInsights.com. You know, Sean, thinking about it, one of the reasons Social Security remains such a hot topic is that people are looking for certainty. So they're wondering what benefits will look like down the road, what taxes might be, and how to create reliable income in their retirement. And so when it comes to planning ahead, there's another strategy I want to talk about. It's getting a lot of attention right now from both younger and older investors alike, and that is Roth accounts. The Wall Street Journal actually says that Gen Z is being called the Roth generation, and it's largely due to the advice that they're getting on social media.
Open a Roth IRA. Every dollar you put in grows tax-free forever.
I'm going to go through step by step how to invest your Roth IRA.
I took a look at my Roth IRA's contributions, and for the first time in my life, I'm glad to say that I maxed mine out. I'm going to show you exactly how I did it.
So 75% of Gen Z investors who contributed to an IRA in the first quarter chose a Roth account. But they're not the only ones embracing Roth strategies. Roth conversions by baby boomers also jumped 41% during that same period. So Gen Z may be getting the headlines, but boomers are making some big Roth moves too, Sean. So I'm wondering your thoughts on this. Why do you think this is happening?
I love that the Roth strategy is gaining steam. It's getting more attention. It's such a powerful strategy. In some situations, it's not going to be for everyone. I love that the Gen Zers are, paying attention and putting some thought to it. That's really good news for the future. We've been using Roth strategies, advanced Roth strategies for over 20 years. And I'm seeing more and more people, when they come in to meet with me, that they already started using a Roth. And that was unheard of maybe 4 or 5 years ago. And so it's really good to see that. Actually, families are coming in and they're asking for their kids. They're asking us, should our kids and our grandkids be directing their employment dollars into those 401k traditional side or the Roth side? So we love that. And I'll just mention as a side note to that, when we work with a family, we offer and we encourage the kids to come in, and we're going to help them kind of create their own financial plan. We believe that their parents, actually our clients, the people that we're working for, they're going to be better off, the better off that their kids are, and the earlier start they get, the better. So we really like that. But you brought up a really good point, Casey. Boomers, and I'll even add Gen Xers.
Okay.
They're questioning more and more. When they come in, one of their concerns is, should I be doing Roth conversions, and how's it work? And, what do I got to be looking at? I love that there's the awareness. They're becoming aware that this is something that they need to think about. Of course, tax-free money, tax-free distributions, we're all very interested in that. We can get really excited about that. The problem, though, that I see is decisions are being based on the perceived downside, not the overall benefits. People at this point, they haven't been able to figure out how to determine what the overall benefits of Roth conversions are. They like that idea of tax-free income, but they're really very focused on what the downside is going to be. And we all know it's the taxation. It's giving up money early in the form of taxes that we weren't planning on. And that's very understandable. They're worried that those taxes are going to have to be paid out of their cash flow, which is going to mean they have less cash flow into the household. They're worried about that they're going to enter into higher tax brackets, and that just doesn't feel good. They don't like the idea that portfolio value will go down. Of course, the portfolio value is going to go down if we have to take money out of it early to pay taxes. Mm-hmm. We've got to really start focusing in on, or I really encourage people to start focusing in on figuring out what the benefits are. You've got to understand, look, if we're going to have less money in the beginning, and we're doing that with the potential of having more money in the end, when is that break-even point? We need to figure that out. We also need to understand what's the difference in value of each dollar between a Roth versus a tax-deferred dollar. It's different for everybody because of the tax situation that they're in. Figure out the value of the Roth dollars compared to the value of the tax-deferred dollars in your portfolio, and that's going to help a lot. You also want to understand what the legacy value to the heirs are. Look, when we pass money to our kids, causes, family members, whoever it might be, we know that if it goes in traditional IRA form, they're going to have some significant tax liability on those dollars. And we did not sign up to give the majority of our savings that we sacrificed to create, give the majority of our savings away to the government in the form of taxation. So we really need to get a hold and understanding on what the value of those Roth dollars are for our heirs in legacy. You know, tax dollars this year versus lifetime. I ask people, what's most important to you? And this is a good question to ask yourself. What's more important to you? The number of dollars you pay in taxes this year or the number of dollars you pay over your lifetime? And most of us, once you think that through, you're going to come to the conclusion that, look, the number of dollars you pay over your lifetime is what's most important. If we can save six figures, multiple six figures in taxation over our lifetime, what happens with those dollars? You know, we get to spend them, or they go to who we care about, kids, causes, instead of the government in taxation. You know, a lot of times people will suggest to me that they've gone to their tax professional. In fact, I've got a great example. We, a few months ago, sponsored a specific Roth conversion class. We did an educational class.
Very cool.
Specifically, on Roth conversions. It went over very well. And I'll tell you, there was about 22 families that came to that class, and about 15 of those families actually signed up to come and meet with us to kind of walk through more detail on their specific situation. Out of 15, we had 10 of those give us a call and tell us that they had talked with their tax professional, their CPA, and their CPA told them that they should not convert. I was able to get on with about 3 of those people, and about 3 of those people decided to go ahead and keep their meeting and come in. And all 3 of those people right now, we're implementing Roth conversion strategies. The reason is I went and talked with the tax professional. What I've found through time is that tax professionals typically, and I'm generalizing, there's some really good ones, but for the most part, tax professionals are really focused on how they can save us as many dollars as possible this year.
Right.
They're not necessarily considering the tax liability over our lifetime. So it's really important to understand.
No hate, no shade to the CPAs, but that's their job, is to focus on this calendar year.
That's for sure, and they can be really good at it. But we need something more advanced. We need to understand what that liability is going to be over our lifetime and what strategies are going to help us. So strategy determined by spendable income and legacy value. You've got to figure out what that value is to your spendable income while you're alive, and then the value to your heirs in legacy. And there's multiple elements that we have to consider. You know, tax brackets, required minimum distributions, RMDs, Social Security, Medicare premiums can be affected by tax scenarios and implementing Roth conversions. Widow's tax, you know, is probably the most unjust part of the tax code, is when one spouse passes away, the surviving spouse's tax liability goes up significantly, and we may be able to mitigate that utilizing Roth conversions. But, you know, advanced Roth calculations, that's is what's required to determine, you know, what type of strategy to use. We have proprietary calculation system. We have proprietary software that we can utilize to really help you determine how many dollars you should be converting. If you have $1 million in your IRA, should you convert 350,000? 700,000? Should you be converting the whole $1 million? That's going to be different for everybody. Everybody's situation different. And if you're going to convert a certain number of dollars, over what time frame should you do that? You know, some people should convert all of it in 2 years. Some people should spread it out over 8 years. And so, you know, I really want to encourage you to get your own individual Roth blueprint. That is a report that we generate utilizing our proprietary Roth calculation system.
Is that something special that you're going to offer today when it comes to Roth accounts?
Yeah, it really is. We're going to offer that as part of that comprehensive retirement plan assessment. But it's going to give you how much you should be converting and that time frame strategy. You know, should you be converting over 2 years or 8 years? It's going to cut your taxes and it's going to give you the most spendable income through your lifetime. It's the highest legacy value to your heirs. The bottom line is, what strategy should you be using to cut taxes? And you know, for you, our listeners, you want to call right now, because for our first 5 callers, we're going to give you your Roth blueprint with no charge. It's really that important. So give us a call, 559-847-0039. Our team is standing by right now.
559-847-0039. It all starts when you dial that number and secure your spot for that introductory retirement planning assessment with Sean. And remember, he's going to do this for a limited number of callers today, completely complimentary, and he's also going to include his Roth blueprint. So if you've got $500,000 or more saved for retirement, pick up the phone right now and give us a call, 559-847-0039, or head online to masonstreetretirementinsights.com. So, Sean, what I find interesting from that previous conversation talking about Gen Z and Roth accounts, and I find it interesting that both younger investors and retirees seem to be looking for the same thing these days, and that's more certainty, whether it is using Roth accounts to create that tax-free income down the road or finding ways to generate dependable retirement income. People want to feel a little more in control of their future at the end of the day. And that brings me to another headline I saw this week that's getting a lot of attention, because starting early next year, Fidelity plans to offer annuities inside its target date funds. And that raises a few questions, like what kind of annuity is it? And does it replace part of the bond allocation to help manage risk? So, Sean, we know annuities can be complicated. We touched on them a little bit earlier in the show, but I'm wondering how investors can tell whether this is the right fit for their retirement plan. Can you speak on this?
Yeah, actually I can. I'm an advocate of choice of options. I believe that people should have all of the options in front of them. I've been looking at this strategy, this concept. Vanguard and BlackRock have also come out with their own form of these concepts. I guess my concern is really people having an understanding and clarity in the details. You know, this is kind of a hybrid investment strategy. It's designed to, at least in part, address the lack of pension income that most employees have access to at this point. But, you know, annuities have a lot of moving parts. And so there's a lot of questions, and a lot of these moving parts, you know, in the retail environment and the environment that we've been used to using annuities, we can really manipulate all of those moving parts depending on the situation. Payout rates, liquidity, you know, fees and expenses, beneficiary options. You know, what happens if an employee passes away early? What happens to those dollars that went into that annuity side of the target date fund? Understanding how they calculate what the income is going to be from those years of savings, and there's so many more. Is the rate of return on that target date fund going to be affected because there's that annuity allocation? Those are all questions that we've got to know, we've got to understand. I'm having a hard time kind of figuring out who it fits for. You know, the younger that we are, the younger employees, they don't have a clue yet, and for good reason. They don't know yet what their income needs are going to be when they reach retirement. They're just trying to get the money into those accounts, and their main focus is to grow them. And if that rate of return is going to affect negatively that growth, that can be a problem. Older individuals, those of us that are closer to retirement, we need more, individual attention. Retirement design, it requires individually tailored strategy in order to get it right. We want to make sure that we're doing this as great as we possibly can. And what I've found over the years is there is no one size fits all. And this particular concept, it seems to be one of those one-size-fits-all strategies. They're going to allocate 25% to that annuity. Who is that going to be right for? We just don't know. And I've yet to really meet a 401k representative. So the person that is coming to your workplace and helping you or advising you on your 401k, I've yet to meet one of those that have the skill set or the training to actually be a planner, to actually plan your financial well-being. And for sure, I haven't found that in any custodian reps, meaning the people that you get on the phone when you call Fidelity or you call Schwab, they typically aren't going to be trained and have the experience to help you with those planning decisions. So I'm just really concerned about that. And look, I'm a fan of all of the options laid out on the table. I just can't find a good fit for this at this point. I believe there's better options so far. But I really encourage you, if you're thinking about one of these strategies, I'm not suggesting because I don't have the information necessary to suggest to you. Come in, let's talk about it. Let's look at what's going on with you and your individual situation. Let's compare one of these strategies and see if it might be a good fit. So give us a call. Our team is standing by. They're going to set us up with a great time for you to just come in and have a discussion about it.
That number to do it, 559-847-0039. If you're sitting here wondering whether any of this applies to your situation, you're not alone. Retirement planning has become a lot more complex, and it's very easy to get lost in the headlines or the latest products being offered by the industry. But that's exactly where Sean can come into the picture. 559-847-0039. That's the number to dial. That's going to connect you with one of our Mason Street teammates who are standing by. Sean's calendar is pulled up. They're ready to get you scheduled to meet directly with him. 559-847-0039. If you've got $500,000 or more in investable assets, take the time to get a second opinion and find out how those decisions could impact your long-term retirement goals. So one more time, write this phone number down, save it in your phone, 559-847-0039, or find us online if that's easier. We are at Mason Street, retirementinsights.com. Click the contact button, share some info with us, and we will be more than happy to reach out directly to you. And that's going to do it for us this week here on the show. But Sean and I will be back next week, same time, same place, with more retirement insight for Fresno. But until then, Sean, handing it back over to you. Any final thoughts today?
That was a lot of fun. I always like going through these concepts. I just want to encourage everybody, keep coming back. We care so much about your success, and we're going to keep bringing information to you that can help put you in a better position. It's hot outside. Try and keep it cool. Come back next week, and we'll talk to you then.
Mason Street Wealth Management, MSWM, is a registered investment advisor, and the opinions expressed by MSWM on this show are their own and do not reflect the opinions of Motivate Investments. Registration is not an endorsement by securities regulators. Investment advisory services are offered through Motivate Investments, an SEC-registered investment advisory firm. All statements and opinions expressed are based upon information considered reliable, although it should not be relied upon as such. Any statements or opinions are subject to change without notice. The information presented is for educational purposes only and does not intend to make an offer or solicitation for the sale or purchase of any specific securities, investments, or investment strategies. Investments involve risk and, unless otherwise stated, are not guaranteed. Information expressed does not take into account your specific situation or objectives and is not intended as recommendations appropriate for any individual. Listeners are encouraged to seek advice from a qualified tax, legal, or investment advisor to determine whether any information presented may be suitable for their specific situation. Past performance is not indicative of future performance. By contacting us, you may be provided with information about insurance products, including annuities. Offered through Sean A. Mason, California, insurance license number 0B54860. The firms are separate entities. Annuity guarantees rely on the financial strength and claims paying ability of the issuing insurance company and are not offered by Motivate Investments. Read your contract for restrictions, limitations, or penalties. MSWM is not licensed in all 50 states. To find out if MSWM is licensed in your state, please call 559-892-0002.